you know, like in Alice in Wonderland, and I lived in a one-bedroom apartment with a girl and a guy, and the girl and I and the guy was on a pull-out couch, and like we would never allow him to go to bed until we were ready. We're going, no.
30 years of dazzling fame, 20 trips to rehab, and countless appearances in police reports. That is the paradox of Heather Locklear. Once celebrated as the television sweetheart with Dynasty, Melrose Place, and Spin City, she has now become a symbol of the tragedies lurking behind Hollywood's bright lights. At the height of her glory, Heather embodied an irreplaceable image: regal beauty, an icy smile, and piercing eyes that mesmerized the world. But as the glamorous posters began to fade, harsh truths surfaced: broken marriages, a fractured soul, and long, suffocating psychological struggles that seemed impossible to escape. What shocked the public most was not the scandals, but the painful revelation from her daughter, Ava Sambora. When that truth emerged, people realized no sentence handed down by the outside world could ever be as cruel as the pain lodged in a mother's own heart. The story of Heather Locklear is not just about the downward spiral of a once shining star. It is also a mirror reflecting an eternal dialogue between light and darkness, between fame and loneliness, between an immortal idol in the audience's eyes and a woman endlessly battling herself. And perhaps the real enemy was never the world outside, but Heather herself. Heather Dean Locklear was born on September 25, 1961, in Los Angeles, California, and grew up in a middle-class suburb of the San Fernando Valley. Her father, Bill Locklear, a former Marine who later worked at UCLA, instilled in his children the importance of education, faith, and love of country. Her mother, Diane Locklear, a production executive at Disney, brought creativity into the household. The combination of military discipline from her father and artistic spirit from her mother created a unique environment that nurtured Heather in both structure and aspiration. Heather's childhood left such an impression that some later believed it inspired a Tom Petty song. From an early age, she was a well-behaved daughter, deeply attached to her parents. Yet children will be children. At the age of 6, Heather once escaped corporal punishment by charming her parents with persuasion. Not only did she succeed in that moment, but she also convinced them to abandon the idea of such discipline altogether. It was the first time Heather learned that gentleness could sometimes triumph over iron rules. Still, her journey into adolescence was far from smooth. Heather admitted that in high school she was nothing special, not smart enough, not remarkable enough, rejected from the cheerleading squad, stuck with braces, plagued by acne, and often teased by classmates for her thin frame and flat chest. Even so, she dated one boy for years, breaking up and reconciling multiple times, even on prom night itself. Ironically, those seemingly dark years forged the resilience Heather would later need to survive Hollywood. Alongside her teenage insecurities, Heather sought refuge in the arts. She appeared in school plays, shining on stage with a natural confidence and presence that caught the attention of teachers and classmates alike. She also threw herself into extracurricular activities, often chosen as a standout face for school events. In those moments, it was clear that while she might have felt inadequate in everyday life, Heather Locklear never faded when standing before an audience. Academically, she excelled, and once planned to pursue a serious career in psychology at UCLA, believing she might dedicate her life to research and academia. But fate had already prepared another path, one illuminated by stage lights, calling her name with an invitation Heather could not refuse. Right after leaving high school, the once ugly duckling began transforming into a swan during her years at UCLA. By chance, her father, then head of admissions, helped Heather land her very first modeling job for the university's Bearwear fashion catalog. At just 5'5", her dream of becoming an international supermodel quickly dissolved before it could take shape. Yet that small job opened a completely new path for Heather, the performing arts. Many have tried to cross over from modeling to acting, but few succeeded, especially at the very beginning of their careers. Heather was the exception. At just 20 years old, she unexpectedly landed her first role in Dynasty, the primetime soap of the 1980s about a Denver oil dynasty. Heather had the looks and charisma producers wanted, but her acting skills lagged behind. She was so nervous that she struggled with even the basics, moving on stage while delivering lines. In one humiliating incident, she froze during a dramatic pause, prompting producer Elaine Rich to exclaim, "Oh my God, let her learn to count to 3." Elaine Rich even decided to send Heather to a vocal coach to lower her screams by several octaves, since her high-pitched, uncontrolled voice lacked the gravity her character required. Those were difficult early days when Heather Locklear stood at the edge between a golden opportunity and the risk of being cast aside. Yet despite her initial awkwardness, Heather refused to retreat. She worked tirelessly, learned relentlessly, and little by little transformed the role of Sammy Jo Carrington in Dynasty into a springboard, one that propelled her into the ranks of names television audiences would never forget. It was the very first door opening the way for Heather Locklear to rise from a shy UCLA student to one of the defining TV stars of the 1980s. The 1980s ushered in a period when Heather Locklear not only enjoyed success, but also tasted the lavish excesses that defined Hollywood. Before entering the Melrose Place era, Heather had her first major breakthrough with Dynasty, the iconic primetime soap of the 1980s. As Sammy Jo Carrington, she embodied the seductive blonde, scheming yet magnetic. The character quickly became a point of intrigue, helping Dynasty climb into the Nielsen Top 10 and draw tens of millions of American viewers each week. Heather stayed with Dynasty for nearly a decade, 1981-1989, and it was this role that transformed her from a fresh face into a household television star. Week after week, viewers saw Heather in primetime, and the Locklear name steadily rose as a new Hollywood symbol. It was the foundation of her stardom. Without Sammy Jo Carrington in Dynasty, there would never have been Amanda Woodward in Melrose Place. After Dynasty, she also co-starred in T.J. Hooker alongside William Shatner, the legendary Starfleet captain, who once called Heather his ultimate muse. Ironically, the police uniform in the show concealed the curves that were considered her greatest asset. Producers, desperate to keep viewers hooked, devised an odd solution: padded bras and even underwear with fake buttocks. Heather tolerated the bulky bra for a few weeks, but when she discovered padded panties in the dressing room, she flatly refused. "You're not going to make me wear that." Later, on the Drew Barrymore show, Heather laughed. "My chest was flat, my butt was flat, but I was never going to let anyone define me with something fake." That resolve turned Heather into the real Stacey Sheridan, even if it forced writers to add bikini scenes or go-go dancing moments to appease the audience. Yet beyond those gimmicks, it was the role of Stacey Sheridan that cemented Heather's reputation as television's golden girl throughout the 80s and laid the perfect groundwork for her explosion in Melrose Place. From the ingenue image of Dynasty and T.J. Hooker, Heather stepped into an even brighter spotlight in the 1990s as Amanda Woodward in Melrose Place. Initially planned for just 4 episodes, Heather's arrival sent ratings soaring, from 94 in its first season to 50 in the second, drawing nearly 15 million American viewers weekly. Amanda, sharp, powerful, and uncompromising, immediately became the show's centerpiece. Heather not only kept millions of viewers glued to their screens, but also earned 4 consecutive Golden Globe nominations for the role. With Melrose Place, Heather Locklear was no longer just a TV star. She became the ace of an entire decade, hailed by the press as the Queen of Primetime, with every appearance sparking a frenzy among audiences. That peak did not end with Melrose Place. In the late 1990s, Heather Locklear cemented her position further when she joined the sitcom Spin City. At the time, ratings were beginning to stall. and producers turned to Heather as a savior. Indeed, her role as Caitlin Moore, a sharp, witty, yet humorous political aide, breathed new life into the show, drawing audiences back to their screens. It was the second time Heather had successfully rescued a series, following her miraculous turnaround in Melrose Place. On set, Heather made her mark not only through her character, but also with her energy. Michael J. Fox once said her presence gave the show a new vitality and femininity, while Charlie Sheen, who later replaced Fox, called her a perfect co-star, sharp yet able to ease the tension. In truth, Heather became the vital bridge that helped viewers accept the delicate transition when Michael J. Fox had to step down due to Parkinson's disease. As a result, the role of Caitlin earned Heather 2 consecutive Golden Globe nominations, 2000 to 2001, for Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical Series. Clear proof that she was not only the queen of drama, but could also shine in comedy. After Spin City, Heather demonstrated her resilience with Boston Legal, 2007 to 2009, the acclaimed legal drama that featured some of television's most seasoned actors. At a time when most of her peers had either retired or faded into obscurity, Heather chose to re-emerge in a mature, demanding genre. It was no longer the glittering peak with soaring ratings like Melrose Place, but rather a meaningful late bloom. She proved she could break free from the molds of soap operas and sitcoms, immersing herself in serious, gritty, law-driven scripts. Audiences were surprised to see Heather in a more restrained, less glamorous appearance, tackling courtroom battles instead of the entangled romances she was once known for. This shift reflected not only her professional maturity, but also her determination to keep her name alive in a rapidly changing television landscape. Boston Legal did not make her the ace card, as Melrose Place once had, but it presented Heather Locklear as an evolved star, an actress unwilling to be boxed in, unafraid to take risks, even when the spotlight no longer burned as brightly. Recognition came not only from hit series. Heather was invited twice to host Saturday Night Live, a rare benchmark of fame reserved for true A-listers. In 1991, she was voted Favorite Female Television Performer at the People's Choice Awards. These milestones underscored that Heather's appeal extended far beyond the screen, becoming part of American pop culture itself. For 2 decades, Heather Locklear was nearly omnipresent in America's most popular television series. The press hailed her as the Queen of Primetime, a rare title reflecting her near-unchallenged dominance. She appeared repeatedly on the covers of TV Guide and Rolling Stone and was consistently named among People magazine's Most Beautiful Women in America. From the awkward girl once teased in high school, Heather Locklear rose to become a pop culture icon. This was the golden era of her career, the time when all of Hollywood watched the every move of television's reigning queen. Heather Locklear's personal life was as turbulent as the television dramas she starred in. Before Ava Sambora, she had already endured a high-profile marriage to Mötley Crüe drummer Tommy Lee. Their romance began with a proposal as flamboyant as any rock cliché. On Christmas Eve 1985, inside a luxurious limousine, Tommy suddenly popped through the sunroof, slipped a sparkling 2.3-carat diamond ring onto Heather's hand, and, with his hair whipping in the wind, shouted, "Will you marry me?" It was wild, reckless, and strangely intoxicating. On May 10, 1986, they sealed their union in a lavish wedding followed by the entire gaze of Hollywood. Yet behind the grandeur, their honeymoon in the Cayman Islands spiraled into a nightmare. The couple fought so violently that local authorities had to intervene. Married life afterward seemed calmer, but it never gave Heather the family happiness she longed for. In interviews, Tommy boasted that his wife could down Jack Daniels like a real rocker, a shocking contrast to the Heather who once struggled to even pretend to be drunk in her early Dynasty days. But beneath the romantic image lay darker truths. According to unofficial biographies, Tommy indulged not only in alcohol and reckless partying, but also displayed violent behavior. Insiders recalled Heather enduring bruises and even being shoved against a wall during his rages. Desperate to salvage the marriage, Heather tried everything, pushing Tommy into AA meetings, attending couples counseling, even undergoing AIDS testing together after Althea Flint, a woman known to have shared needles with Tommy, was diagnosed with the disease. Their marriage lasted until 1993, a survival many called a miracle. But the end was inevitable. One breaking point reportedly came when Heather returned home to find her beloved small dog dead, allegedly attacked by Tommy's Rottweiler. Though he denied it, the incident underscored the unbridgeable chasm between them. When Heather and Tommy finally divorced after 7 years, the official reason was simply irreconcilable differences. Yet those who knew the truth understood it was a marriage steeped in chaos, where a rising television star had chosen to tie herself to a rebellious 23-year-old rocker, only to pay with years of tension, tears, and bitter disillusionment. A year later, in 1994, Heather entered her second marriage, this time with Ava Sambora, the legendary guitarist of Bon Jovi. Their union was once hailed as one of Hollywood's most beautiful love stories. Heather, then at the peak of her career as Amanda Woodward in Melrose Place, and Richie, a rock superstar, seemed like a match made in heaven. Introduced by makeup artist Lisa Christie, they quickly fell for each other. And just 7 months later, Richie proposed on Christmas with a pear-shaped Cartier diamond ring. The very next day, Heather proudly showed it off at the Emmy Awards, while the press couldn't stop calling them entertainment's golden couple. On December 17, 1994, they wed in a romantic Paris ceremony watched closely by all of Hollywood. The pairing of a television star and a rock legend looked perfect. In 1997, they welcomed their daughter, Ava Sambora. Magazine covers were filled with images of the picture-perfect Hollywood family. Ava was described as the embodiment of their love, while Heather and Richie were celebrated as America's golden family. But behind the glitter, cracks were forming. Richie was constantly on the road with Bon Jovi, while Heather was consumed by relentless filming schedules. Their different lifestyles and work rhythms left them unable to find balance. By 2006, Heather suddenly filed for divorce in Los Angeles Superior Court, citing irreconcilable differences. In the filing, she sought custody of 8-year-old Ava and visitation rights for Richie. Notably, the couple had already signed a prenuptial agreement to settle financial matters. The divorce made headlines, but what shocked the public even more was Richie's reaction. While touring with Bon Jovi, he told ABC News that everything at home is fine, even insisting he was still planning to spend Valentine's Day with Heather. Clearly, her decision had blindsided even him. Just months earlier, the couple had appeared in the media denying rumors of trouble, claiming, "After 11 years together, we're still happy. Boring but true." But when Heather officially filed, those reassurances crumbled overnight. The real blow came after the divorce, when Richie quickly began a relationship with Denise Richards, Heather's former best friend. Denise wasn't just another actress. She was someone Heather had trusted and considered a sister. For Denise to date Richie so soon after the breakup was seen as a double betrayal. Headlines screamed, "Friendship destroyed by love storm," and best friend becomes the other woman. Denise was branded a homewrecker, while Heather was left to endure double heartbreak, losing both her husband and her closest friend. This betrayal not only shattered the image of the perfect family Heather had built, but also plunged her into a deep emotional crisis. Feeling betrayed by the two people she trusted most broke her spirit, setting the stage for years of battles with mental health and addiction. Divorce from Ava Sambora did not simply end a marriage. It marked the beginning of a dark turn, one that would define much of Heather's troubled later life. What do you think of this tangled love triangle? If it were you, would you have the strength to rise again after such a devastating emotional blow? After her bitter divorce from Ava Sambora, Heather Locklear's life spiraled into a dark, seemingly endless descent. On the outside, she still carried the image of a star, but inside, she was battling inner demons, anxiety, depression, and prescription drug abuse. These mental health struggles not only destabilized her life, but also pulled her into a series of explosive legal scandals. The breaking point came in February 2018, when Heather was arrested at her Westlake Village, California, home after a heated argument with her boyfriend, Chris Heiser. Police were called at 9:40 p.m. and had to restrain her after she attacked not only her boyfriend, but also 3 responding officers, resulting in charges of domestic violence and 3 counts of battery on law enforcement. During questioning, she allegedly threatened to shoot the police if they ever came back to her house, prompting authorities to search her home for the registered firearm, though nothing was found. Worse yet, just a few months later, in June 2018, Heather was arrested again for assaulting both a police officer and a paramedic who had been called to assist during another drunken outburst with family and friends. Following her release, she was hospitalized for a suspected overdose. Only a week prior, firefighters had rushed to her home after reports that Heather was suicidal and had become violent. This string of incidents left Heather facing 8 criminal charges, including 5 counts of battery on an officer, 1 count of battery on emergency personnel, and 2 counts of obstructing law enforcement. To avoid prison, she accepted mandatory treatment, 30 days in a mental health facility, a suspended 120-day jail sentence contingent on completing her program, and 3 years of probation. She was also banned from alcohol, prohibited from owning firearms, and required to attend substance abuse rehabilitation. Heather's mugshots spread across tabloids, transforming a once-admired television queen into a symbol of downfall. The public looked on in sorrow, realizing that Heather Locklear, the former queen of primetime, had now become the centerpiece of crime reports and cautionary tales about the tragic cost of fame. Amid the relentless storms of her life, Heather Locklear still had one light that never went out: her daughter, Ava Sambora. In the moments when Heather hit rock bottom, her fragile mental health and addictions pulling her into the abyss, Ava became the anchor, the sole reason her mother could find strength to rise again. Ava did more than witness her mother's collapse. She held Heather's hand through every grueling stage of struggle. Their bond went far beyond blood. It became a lifeline, both lifting and healing. During Heather's treatment and recovery, Ava was always there, not only with quiet care, but with open faith in her mother. On social media, Ava often expressed her love and admiration for Heather. Despite facing her own challenges, she consistently put her mother first. She once confided, "My mom has always been there for me, always comforting and guiding me. Now I just want to give that back to her." A simple statement, yet it carried everything: resilience, unconditional love, and a mother-daughter connection that became Heather's only steady light in the darkness. After years of silence and living with wounds too heavy to share, Ava Sambora finally spoke out about the root of the tragedies her mother, Heather Locklear, had faced. Ava's account not only stunned the public, but also shed light on the true cause behind her mother's long spiral of crises. According to Ava, the bitter 2006 divorce from Ava Sambora did not merely end what seemed like a perfect marriage. It opened the door to years of chaos and loss. Heather, once a devoted wife and mother, suddenly found herself hollowed out, abandoned, and directionless. The pain deepened when Richie quickly began a relationship with Denise Richards, once Heather's closest friend. Denise had been someone Heather trusted deeply, someone close to the family. For her to step into Heather's ex-husband's life so soon after the divorce devastated her. To Heather, it was not just the loss of a marriage, but a double betrayal, both from a friend and a partner. Ava revealed that it was this shock that triggered her mother's downward spiral into psychological turmoil, anxiety, depression, isolation, and eventually a dependence on prescription drugs as a temporary escape. The constant pressure of media coverage only worsened the wound, as every detail of Richie and Denise's relationship was splashed across the public eye. Ava's revelation helped fans understand why Heather, the once revered television icon, had fallen so far. The divorce, combined with Richie's headline-making relationship with Denise Richards, left wounds too deep to heal quickly. From there, her personal tragedy stretched into years of haunting pain. The fact that Denise, her best friend, began a relationship with Heather's ex-husband immediately after the divorce sent Heather into profound psychological crisis. The feeling of betrayal from both her closest friend and her former partner didn't just break her heart, it pushed her into an endless battle with anxiety, depression, and isolation. Ava confessed that these events left her mother feeling deceived and unable to trust anyone ever again. This double loss was more than a private heartbreak. It revealed a brutal truth. Sometimes the greatest tragedies do not come from enemies outside, but from those in whom we place our deepest trust. For Heather, losing both her husband and her best friend at once was like having the very shoulders she relied upon ripped away. It raises a painful question. How can anyone stand tall when the most vital supports of love and friendship collapse at the same time? Perhaps it is not fame or career that ultimately breaks a person, but the emptiness left when both love and friendship vanish together. After 2 failed marriages, Heather Locklear found new hope with Jack Wagner, her Melrose Place co-star, where they had famously played the fiery couple Amanda Woodward and Peter Burns. On screen, their characters ended with a romantic twist, faking their deaths to escape turmoil. Off-screen, it wasn't until 2007, after both had ended their own marriages, that they officially came together. 4 years later, in August 2011, Wagner proposed, and Heather said yes. But the joy was short-lived. Just 3 months later, they called off the engagement due to the overwhelming pressures of wedding planning and complications involving their families and children. Still, the relationship did not end in bitterness. Wagner later admitted that the two kept in touch, occasionally exchanging birthday wishes or check-ins, and continued to see each other as friendly companions. This connection showed that despite personal heartbreaks, Heather chose to hold on to a beautiful piece of memory with a co-star who had shared her brightest Melrose Place years. But after her chapter with Jack Wagner closed, it would take many more years before Heather found a deeper, more enduring love, this time with her high school sweetheart, Chris Heiser. They reunited in 2017 during one of the most difficult phases of Heather's life, and he gradually became the emotional anchor that helped her regain balance. The pinnacle of their relationship came in April 2020, when Heather and Chris officially became engaged. The timing was especially meaningful. It coincided with Heather's 1-year sobriety anniversary, a milestone celebrated by her family, friends, and her daughter Ava. A close family friend told People, "They are truly happy together. Her family, parents, siblings, and daughter, are all supportive and thrilled for her." For Heather, happiness didn't have to mean a grand wedding. In an interview, she explained, "You'll be my husband for life whether we get married or not. What matters is that we're together, loving and supporting each other. That's what really counts." In her public reflections, Heather often emphasized that with Chris, she felt at home, a rare peace after years of turbulence. "He's the most easygoing, loving man. He always supports me, and I support him. He's truly very special to me." In 2021, as they both turned 60, Heather welcomed the milestone with optimism. "I feel young, it's only 60. What matters is perspective." Chris wasn't just a partner, he became a witness to Heather's recovery. Their engagement during the period she regained sobriety after years of decline was seen as a sign of renewal, a light at the end of a long, shadowed road. Heather Locklear may not hold an Oscar statuette or an Emmy trophy, but her influence on American television is undeniable. From Dynasty and T.J. Hooker to Melrose Place and Spin City, she was always seen as the strategic card, the star producers called upon when ratings needed saving, and almost every time she delivered. This created a precedent. In the 1980s and 1990s, when a show needed a boost, Heather Locklear's name was often the first choice. She was not just an actress. She helped define a new archetype of TV character, the Queen of Primetime. Sensual, powerful, yet full of inner contradictions. Her role as Amanda Woodward in Melrose Place not only elevated Heather to the pinnacle of fame, but also became a cultural symbol of the 1990s. The press once dubbed her the modern-day Alexis Carrington, while critics insisted, without Amanda, Melrose Place could never have become a global phenomenon. Her influence extended beyond the small screen. Twice invited to host Saturday Night Live, Heather proved she wasn't just the face of television dramas, but a part of American pop culture itself. And when she won the 1991 People's Choice Award for Favorite Female Television Performer, it wasn't just a trophy. It was recognition that Heather had become a familiar companion in millions of American living rooms every Monday night. Heather Locklear's legacy, therefore, is distinctive. Not a glittering film career, but a lasting connection with television audiences for more than 2 decades. She showed that sometimes consistent presence and the ability to hold viewers can mean more than the most prestigious awards. And yet, when people speak of Heather, they face a paradox. Will she be remembered more for her iconic roles, or for the personal tragedies that overshadowed her life? Perhaps it is this very tension that makes Heather Locklear's legacy so unique, brilliant, fragile, and unforgettable. Today, Heather Locklear no longer appears on screen as frequently as she once did at the height of her fame, yet she continues to hold public attention. After enduring major life upheavals, Heather has chosen a quieter existence in California, focusing on family and maintaining her mental stability. She is often spotted strolling through her neighborhood in casual clothes, sometimes smiling with friends or her daughter Ava, a far cry from the Queen of Primetime, who once dominated American television. What touches audiences most is Heather's enduring bond with Ava Sambora. In many moments, Ava has been not just a daughter, but a pillar of emotional support, a witness to her mother's struggles and gradual recovery. Alongside this, Heather has reconnected with a few old friends from the industry, though she now avoids gossip and almost entirely declines Hollywood's glamorous events. Still, 2025 has seen a string of rare reappearances that surprise the public. Heather joined the What Do You Want? Podcast with friends Jillian Barbary and Melanie Mansill, drawing attention with her radiant look and upbeat demeanor. In April 2025, she appeared at the Calgary Expo in Canada for a talk about her television career, and shortly afterward, she had an emotional reunion with Michael J. Fox at the Toronto Fan Expo, nearly 25 years after they starred together in Spin City. These moments proved she still had the magnetism to draw audiences back to the golden memories of her past. Not all news was joyful, however. In May 2025, People confirmed that Heather and her longtime fiancé, Chris Heiser, had split after roughly 5 years engaged. Even so, sources reported she was in a good place, suggesting Heather had found ways to stand strong after yet another personal setback. Her resilience and ability to recover only deepened public admiration. Meanwhile, Heather has remained a focal point in discussions about a potential Melrose Place reboot. At a 2025 panel, she didn't dodge the rumors, instead speaking openly about her perspective. Producer Charles Pratt even revealed that Heather's high salary had once been a key reason the show couldn't continue, a testament to just how singular her status was in the 1990s. Heather herself reflected on the crushing pressures of appearance she faced, recounting how the ultra-short skirts on Melrose Place were almost revealing whenever you sat down, a small detail that spoke volumes about the relentless demands television placed on her for years. At home, Heather treats her house as a sanctuary, a place of refuge where she can seek peace after so many storms. Rumors suggest she may be considering another stint in treatment to preserve her stability, showing that the battle with mental health and addiction is not fully over. Yet her decision to live quietly, to heal in private, and to only step into the spotlight when ready has made her appear even stronger. Now in her 60s, Heather Locklear no longer clings to the glories of the past, but embraces peace in daily life. Fans who once adored her for iconic roles now follow her not only for nostalgia, but for the courage of her journey through darkness. And perhaps it is that very resilience that will remain Heather Locklear's most lasting image in the hearts of her audience. Heather Locklear, once a television icon, later a woman who fell many times but kept finding the strength to rise again. The dazzling spotlight may be gone, yet she leaves behind a powerful lesson. True peace does not lie in fame, but in the courage to confront oneself. Though the path to recovery remains filled with challenges, Heather has shown remarkable resilience and determination. What makes her journey even more meaningful is that she has never been truly alone. Her daughter, Ava Sambora, has remained by her side, serving as both anchor and inspiration for her to keep moving forward. Instead of focusing only on the falls, perhaps we should celebrate her fight to return, a journey far from easy but profoundly brave. And you, when looking at her stormy path, do you see a fading star or a resilient woman reclaiming her light? Share your thoughts and don't forget to subscribe so we can continue exploring more untold life stories together.